Welcome back. In this session, we are diving into the advanced use of classifiers. You will learn about their purpose and functionality, how to configure them for different scenarios, and best practices for using classifiers in your workflows. Let's start by exploring the purpose and functionality of classifiers.
Previously, while you guys were working on creating that problem, we also, I added in this piece here, right? So what this is, and this is our first introduction to a classifier, okay? A classifier allows you to take a look at the content and then go ahead and ask some questions about that content. Specifically, is this a summarized transcript or not a summarized transcript, right? Very, very simple. I haven't even tried this, so I don't know that it will work. We know that if it fails right now with an error, we catch that error here. And what we're looking for is, in some cases, and what I was hoping is that someone would have come up with an error where they were able to get the error to occur, but not have it actually show up as an error. Did that happen for anyone? If so, please go ahead and note in the in-call messages. Otherwise, I will go ahead and jump right in here. Okay, so the use of the classifier here is to catch situations and then basically branch accordingly. One of those branches, and an important one oftentimes, is if the LLM was unable to complete what you wanted it to complete, you want to be able to basically branch to, you know what, we need to handle this like it didn't work, or we need to continue on. This is really an important part of the way that you work with outputs from LLMs, because like we've talked about, they're not always predictable. Sometimes things don't go the way you plan. So for example, if you know that whenever you're looking at, for example, the hearsay rule analysis with the one output, and it doesn't give you what you want, you can actually judge that using the classifier, which is an LLM with a prompt, but it has a specific way of actually managing output. Okay, so it basically allows things to be set to either true or false, or not false, but empty.
As Mike demonstrated, classifiers help categorize content and make decisions based on that categorization. Now, let's look at how to configure classifiers for different scenarios.
And that when you take a look, for example, at the classifier examples here, they're pretty simple, right? So you have an input, and that input has some variables, but this gets into configuring categories and providing information and descriptions about them in your prompt, makes it much more capable. This type of classifier really allows you to go ahead and work much more effectively than what can happen. So it's really important that you understand that the classifier is a great way to start to identify, you know, kind of which branch you should go along, right? Is this an error? Is this something where I should go down a particular flow? And this is a great example. Like, for example, when you have a question that comes in and you have an endpoint that's rather general, and that question needs to be categorized for different flows that you have. The workflow is the overarching flow, but you can branch into multiple flows, right? Not just one. And so in the example here, what you see is that there is a purchase, feedback, complaints, technical support, product information. It's not so exact that I would actually want to use a code component, but it is kind of ambiguous, right? So the question could be coming in via a chatbot or a number of different ways where it's natural language and not exacting language that comes in.
Configuring classifiers for specific scenarios can greatly enhance your workflow efficiency. Finally, let's discuss best practices for using classifiers in workflows.
So that's where the classifier as an LLM works really, really well. Whereas I'll be frank with you, if you absolutely need deterministic input and output, and you know that you're going to get a deterministic input, oftentimes using a code block makes more sense. The reason is that this is an LLM. It's meant to take things that are natural language, parse them, and then categorize them accordingly, right? It's pretty good at this sort of thing if you give it the right prompt. If you're going to give it something very exact, for example, if the input is yes or true, then categorize, put the category to this. Or if the category is dog, put it to here. If the category is support, if the input is support, then go ahead and attach it to technical support, right? That it's still interpreting that word, but if you really, really want to make sure that your input is always properly parsed and properly put together, and even error out if it's not. In other words, if they don't give you an answer that makes sense, you want to make sure an error out, then you want very possibly to use a code block to make that happen. So the classifier here is really a very capable LLM component. It is absolutely LLM. You can get fooled sometimes into thinking, well, I can just drag the input and then put the categories and good to go. You need to make sure that you actually work on the prompt just like you would if it was a base LLM prompt.
Using classifiers effectively can help you create more dynamic and responsive workflows. To recap, we've covered the purpose and functionality of classifiers, how to configure them for different scenarios, and best practices for using them in your workflows. These skills will help you create more intelligent and adaptable agents in SmythOS. In our next video, we'll tackle error handling and debugging. We'll explore the types of errors you might encounter in SmythOS, strategies for capturing and managing these errors, and how to use debug mode effectively. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video, where we'll help you become a SmythOS troubleshooting expert.